What makes a successful ICO? Well, I suppose the bottom answer is this is such an evolving new asset class that the market is beginning to understand and learn the good ICOs compared to the bad ICOs. And ICOs themselves have evolved and changed. So back in beginning of 2017, if an ICO raised £5 or £10 million, then it was considered a real success. Through to, we've seen Telegram, which is a way of many thousands of people communicating with each other on a social media type app, looking to raise in excess of $1 billion. So quite a spread of the size of the ICOs. But in terms of when looking at what makes a good ICO, well, first of all, you need to understand what is the business. And as with any investing, if you don't understand it, it's probably a good idea not to invest in it. So what is the business? What's the business plan? Well, very often that's actually communicated through something called a white paper. And a white paper for an ICO would be very similar to an investment memorandum or a placing document that you'd have in an initial public offering. It explains what does a company do, who are the directors, who are the advisors, what are the milestones they're hoping to achieve, what are they going to use the money for, and it's really giving you a feel for what's behind the business, which is very, very important. And that's where, if you read the white paper, and unfortunately statistics show that less than a third of people ever do read the white paper, but it should actually explain there and also give you the risk warnings, what could go wrong, and what are the benefits if we get it right and actually the business becomes a success, and who's going to actually enjoy the returns of that business on an ongoing basis. So in the white paper, you want to be making sure that there is information about the directors. You want to make sure that they've actually got a track record, that they've done something similar to this before. They weren't, a rocket scientist and have no commercial experience, and then suddenly they go into the commercial world. You may want to have someone on board that maybe has got a few grey hairs, maybe has been a non-executive director, or maybe running a public company in the past. So because essentially you're going from a private running a business for maybe a dozen or so people to whereby you're very much in the public profile. And one of the dangers that we often see with ICOs is that a lot of attention is, if you like, focused at the pre-ICO. We've got to raise money, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. And then they ignore the post-ICO. So they ignore what they need to do and the responsibilities they have to keep the token holders up to date with the developments and what's going on an ongoing basis. Now, if you do an IPO, i.e. you put your business onto a regulated stock exchange, you have responsibilities to make sure that you're telling people about what's going on, give them regular updates so they know whether it's a share that you should continue to buy or sell. Whereas with an ICO, there's very little regulation at this current stage and very little guidance. So I would suggest that when you're looking at ICO, keep it really, really simple. Do you understand the business? Do you understand what they're trying to do and how they're going to try and do it? And some of the business out there, it may be very philanthropic, or it may be just raw capitalism, and there's a spectrum between those two different extremes. But is it something that you can have some understanding and belief and trust in? And when you read the documentation, are there words like "we are the best blockchain in the world"? I know whilst there's lager adverts saying probably the best what in the world, but when companies in a commercial environment and they're trying to encourage you to track money and they make statements like that, you just have to be very, very careful, because ultimately they are taking money from institutions, from the public, and unless they can verify and confirm that what they're saying can be proven, you might find at some stage lawyers working on a pro bono basis actually say, oh, hang on, you've made this claim, the business now hasn't worked, we're now going to potentially bring action against you. And if you're a token holder in that sort of situation, you may find the token value, the cryptocurrency, is undermined substantially.